everyone, I'm Megan Thomas, this is Babbler, and today I'm chatting to Shola Kaye. On Babbler, we're really looking to talk to people doing different creative things in the worlds of art and literature, and so Shola really fits the bill when it comes to this. She is an author of 2 books, she is a keynote speaker, and she's a professional singer, so a Babbler trifecta. Hi Shola, how are you doing?
Hi Meg, it's great to be here. I'm really well, thank you.
Good. Is it snowing where you are?
You know what, it's ridiculously windy, but we haven't had any snow just yet. But I wouldn't mind a bit. It's always nice to have a bit of snow every winter.
Yeah. Just a dusting outside of the window that you actually don't have to go out in is quite nice.
Yeah, benefit of lockdown actually. Lockdown snow is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if my research serves me well, you have a degree in natural science from Cambridge, a MA in science, an IT background, and yet I have you here today to talk about your creative career that you've got and you've established. Can you tell me about how this all came to be?
Yeah, I mean, it's a story that's sort of too long and boring for, I'm sure, your listeners to want to hear all of. But as a kid, I always wanted to do the sciences, so I ended up studying those. And then I had, basically, I do a lot of communication work now, but back in the day, I was incredibly timid and not very outspoken at all. So I started a career in tech and I was a consultant. I was supposed to speak up in meetings, and I found that I just didn't perform very well in the environment. So cut the long story short, I got put on probation at one job, fired from another. And then I thought, well, blow this. I'm just going to do the thing that I always dreamed of doing when I was a kid, which was singing. So I'd always had these dreams of me being, in this sort of sparkly dress with audiences cheering and stuff. So I just thought, well, look, I've screwed everything else up. It's time to take some singing lessons. So then from there, I just gained a lot of confidence being in front of audiences, and the time away from being in corporate work kind of allowed me to explore a lot of other areas, music, songwriting, writing. So yeah, I just kind of, I think through being sort of not booted out of the corporate world, but sort of not flourishing at that particular time, it allowed me to explore some things that perhaps I wouldn't have done.
Absolutely. And so then the singing came first then. Are there similarities between singing, the confidence you need to sing and to then be a speaker, a public speaker?
Yeah, I think there are so many similarities. And the reason I wrote my first book, which is called How to Be a Diva at Public Speaking, and the Diva is a framework for how to be when you're communicating, but also it kind of hints to my background as a singer. And the reason I wrote that is because every time I'd be out at some sort of public speaking meeting and people would say, oh, well, also you're a singer, they'd sound really impressed by the singing, but then they weren't particularly happy about public speaking and their own opportunities to do more speaking. So I wrote that book in part to share with people the similarities so that people really value the opportunity to be public speakers by seeing how much there is in common between any sort of performance really and speaking. So yeah, there are quite a few things in common. I mean, you're obviously standing up in front of an audience, you're hopefully giving some sort of emotional performance, you're making sure that you're of service, so you're connecting with the audience, whether you're delivering them information or inspiring them, or you're playing music that's going to get them going emotionally. I mean, there are lots and lots of similarities between the singing and the speaking, and also between songwriting and writing a speech or a presentation, because again, you've got the format to both. You want to inspire some emotion, you want to make people, whether move physically and dance or sway, or whether it's actually to take action at the end of the presentation. And also this idea of when you're writing a song, it's in the rewrite that you hear every now and again that I think like Yesterday by the Beatles apparently was written in, I don't know, 10 minutes or something. But most of the time with songs, it's the rewriting and the taking out this word or changing that phrase that lends itself to having a really good song at the end of that process. And in the same way with writing a speech or a presentation, you kind of go through this process where, okay, I've got this idea of what I want, but then you're continually tweaking it, changing this sentence, changing this, changing that. And then you end up with hopefully something that is affecting and powerful and can make people, move towards action. So yeah, there are a ton of similarities between the two.
And it's so interesting to hear kind of these similarities between writing the speeches and then obviously then speaking the speeches. And do you find that writing, which one comes first? Do you find that you're writing emotive speeches and then converting them onto a paper version, or do you find it kind of happens a blend of both?
For me, it's about, it always starts with what I want people to do. And I think sometimes you might come up with like this is a really great phrase, or, this will sound good. But I think unless that's in the context of an action that you want the audience to take or an emotion that you want them to feel, I think, I think it can be redundant because it's all about serving the audience and getting them to get the benefit. So for me, it's really, okay, who's the audience? What do I need them to do? What do I need them to feel? What's the message they need to take away? What am I trying to get from this? Whether it's opportunity to promote what I'm doing or to share a message. And then from there, then the speech, the presentation will come.
And so your book obviously suggests that anyone with the right kind of guidance and confidence should be able to be a successful public speaker. Do you think this is true? Do you think everyone has it in them? They just need to practice and use what they've learned in the real world?
Yeah, I really do. And I was at this event I don't know when it was, before lockdown. So before lockdown and after lockdown and during, that's how we measure everything now. But I was at this event and there was a woman there who was a speaker, and she was saying, oh, well, I don't think everybody can be a speaker. Only certain people have the gift. And I just thought, I didn't say anything because I'm an introvert and I don't tend to kind of create, conflict like that. But I just thought, what a load of BS, because I really do feel, especially with my background, someone who was afraid to speak, who even got kind of disciplined at work for not speaking. I mean, I kind of use my background as a way to inspire other people, because I always say, every speech I do, I say, well, hold on a sec, how many of you here have been put on probation? How many of you have been fired for not speaking? And very few people put their hands up. So I say, well, you're in a better position than I was, early on. And I think obviously you've got to be motivated, because to get better at anything, you've got to want to do it. So if someone says, oh, I absolutely hate the idea of being a presenter, then fine, go and do something else. But if you do want to be, and you're struggling at the beginning, I totally think that you can, with the right skills, with the right sort of message, and with practice, you can of course, because a lot of it's about storytelling. It's about being authentic. It's about being relatable. And I don't think you need to have, been sort of born with the gift of the gab to achieve any of those things. So yeah, I totally, and for me, part of writing that book is to say to anybody that wants to speak, hey, you can do this. You absolutely can. Here's a framework, here's a formula for you to be a better speaker in your own way. And then it's about just having the motivation to do the work.
Yeah, definitely. And so then your book, you then converted your book into a series of talks. Why was this important for you to do? And was it a difficult process to kind of transcribe it into something in a more real world format?
Yeah, I mean, I guess part of the reason I did it is because a lot of people now enjoy learning things online. And so I wanted to take the main lessons from the book, and then convert them into sort of online programs. And again, people like things that are bite-sized. So I thought, well, if I can take each of the 4 areas of being a diva, so basically, just to sort of backtrack slightly with this book, How to Be a Diva at Public Speaking, D stands for being dynamic. So, whether you're someone like Tony Robbins, the motivational speaker, and you jump up and down, whether you enjoy sort of descriptive, emotive language, there's a way for you in your own style to be dynamic. Then I is about inspiring, which is storytelling. V is being valuable, which is your content. And then A is being authentic, which is obviously being your true self. And each of those areas I thought could be broken down into separate lessons, but also its own kind of course or talk. So that was what inspired me, because not everybody likes to read. Some people like to learn from video, some people like to listen, and the audiobook is coming out, well, it's out now, actually, just came out too. But yeah, that was kind of why I did it. And it wasn't, I didn't particularly enjoy the process of having to record all these videos, but I did find that, and I say this to my public speaking students, that creating video content is a really amazing way of becoming a better live presenter. Because if you don't want to do hundreds of edits and you know, retake a 3-minute piece 20 times, then you'll quickly find a way to get through things and be more confident on camera, just to save yourself all that extra work. So I found that creating videos, and I had a video blog as well that I did for a couple of years, that was a huge benefit to my live and in-person public speaking.
Amazing. So then your next book you wrote, Big Talk, Small Talk, and Everything in Between, came out last year. Were you writing it during lockdown?
Yeah, it was quite funny actually, because I was approached to write that book. I think it was probably December of 2019, I guess. And so then I'd started writing it, and then as I was coming to the end of writing that book, lockdown happened, and then the release of the book was delayed. So then there was a bit more time to kind of change a few things. So yeah, it started out before lockdown, but then it was completed during lockdown. And it was quite nice to have that project, because at the time I was doing quite a bit of singing, obviously live speaking, and then everything just kind of locked down, you know, closed down overnight. So it was good to have that project to complete while I was thinking, well, what the heck do I do now? You know, I can't get in front of an audience. What's the next iteration for me? So yeah, it was partially a lockdown baby, partially.
Yes. Well, I definitely recommend everyone go read it, even if they don't plan on necessarily being the next keynote speaker, the next Shola Kaye. You can still learn so much from it, just about how to engage in everyday life, and it's a really good motivating read. I'd love to talk now, Shola, more about your music. So you're a singer. What sort of music do you perform, and where do you perform it?
Well, before lockdown, I did a lot of mainly Motown music and jazz. I absolutely love singing jazz, but I found that there was a lot more, as somebody who is a sort of professional singer and making a living from singing, I found there was a lot more work doing the Motown. And so that was kind of the main sort of genre of music that I was spending time on. And yeah, all over. I mean, every now and again I get some international work, and then lots of sort of parties, few jazz clubs and places like that. But a real variety, should I say, a real variety of venues.
Amazing. And you also written some commercial music and some jingles. And I'm wondering how you feel about kind of writing to brief. Is that a different experience for you, or the kind of creative imagery, not imagery, creative energy the same?
I think writing to brief is a fun challenge. And to me, it's like writing a presentation for a group that have asked you to come and speak to them, because you're thinking, well, okay, what do this group need? What elements do I need to include that will move them to do whatever it is that, you know, they're needed to do? So I found that writing music to a brief was a similar thing. I think I kind of like quite uplifting, upbeat music. And it's funny because I was working with this producer a while ago, and we were doing some songwriting together, and he is very much about, well, Shola, the current music, you've got to have more of the dark side, because obviously a lot of music now is kind of much more sparse, darker chords and so on. And I just wanted to write this really jolly stuff. So it kind of I think with the music, is more so than with writing sort of words for presentations and speeches, you know, you've got to take that into account too. There's the genre, there's your personal preference, there's you know, whether there's a kind of a difference in the ages or the preferences of the listener. You know, will they be more inspired by something that's kind of, you know, sort of more low key, or something that's really up tempo? So I think that is an extra requirement to add to the mix, I think, when you're creating music to a brief, as opposed to something that's just the written word and spoken.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure everyone at the moment will be quite grateful for some upbeat, distracting, non-dark side music. So more of that, please. And do you still write a lot of your own original music?
You know what? I stopped. I brought out an album a few years ago, and you know, really enjoyed the process. And that was probably half my own songs and half what do you call it, cover versions. But I haven't. Yeah, I mean, I think I enjoy writing. Basically, when you write music, there's like a whole, as you probably know, like you got to write the music, then find a producer, then you've got to there's like a whole sequence of events that have to happen before you end up having that recording that sounds great in your hand. Hopefully it's great if it's a good you've written a decent song. Whereas I find that it's a much quicker process without needing so many kind of middlemen, but you know, intermediate steps to write a speech and then deliver it. And I could change that mid-flow. I could say, okay, I'm going to change this wording here because I'm feeling inspired or moved. So I haven't written much for a while now, to be honest, but I'm learning piano. It's one of my lockdown hobbies. So I was just thinking, well, maybe I should try and start writing again to the tune of Jingle Bells. I'm slightly beyond it.
Yeah, to the C major scale.
Exactly.
And so your career is made up of kind of lots of little different elements. And is there a situation where you would focus on one and drop the rest, or do you enjoy the combination of them all?
Gosh, I like the combination. I love having lots of different things on the go. But I have to admit that every now and again, I've thought, well, you know, if you're very single-minded and focused, you can go further, although perhaps you won't have sampled and experienced as much. And Elizabeth Gilbert, she has this really nice analogy for that, which is she talks about birds. So she talks about the jackhammer, who's just like just really persistent in one direction. And then she talks about hummingbirds, who are just sort of flitting here and there and enjoying a bit of this and a bit of that. And I think at times where I thought, oh, okay, gosh, if only I just specialize in this one thing, that analogy has really been helpful, because it's not right or wrong. Some people like variety. Some people want to be really single-minded in one direction. And I think we've all got something to bring to the table, whichever way we are. But yeah, those words from Elizabeth Gilbert have really kind of comforted me from time to time.
Definitely. And I actually think lockdowns made people a lot more varied in what they're doing. Everyone's kind of has a jam making business on the side and recording themselves doing stuff and starting different little side hustles. And so perhaps we'll look back on this age as the age of the multitasker rather than so I usually ask people at this stage what advice they would give to people looking to do the same things as them. But quite frankly, I think between your books, your podcasts, and all the different things you do, you're telling people often how exactly they can go about doing that. So instead, what I'd like to ask is if you could go back and give your younger self advice before things had kind of taken off, maybe even before you studied, what would you say? How would you direct young Shola?
Yeah, that's a nice question. I would say, I think when we're young, often we lack confidence, and there's that element of, oh, you know, the whole world's ahead of me, I'm really excited, but also, well, if I try that, will I fail? Or am I equipped to do this thing? And I think my advice to myself would be to really get in touch with things that because I'm trying to speak in the past. But anyway, yeah, let's say I'm speaking to myself now, right? So yeah. I would say get in touch with it's like, yes, some tense issues here. But But yeah, get in touch with the things that light you up. What inspires you? What excites you? Try different things, and don't be afraid to sample really widely, so that you can, as a young person, say, yeah, I tried a bit of this, I did that, I like this, I like that, and then you can take that into the sort of the bigger decisions that you need to make as you grow older and older, and not feel that there's so many things that you haven't experienced, that you haven't got a good basis for making those big decisions. And I think also just have the confidence that it's going to work out okay. I mean, with my career, gosh, as I say, you know, the things that happened to me early on in my corporate career, I really did think that there was no hope for me, and I kind of took myself off and just thought that, well, okay, look, you know, you screwed this up, just sort of lie low, you know, I kind of cut off a lot of friends, lots of things happened. And but now the irony is that quite often when I get booked to speak, it's because I'm really honest and frank about those times in my life. And I think as long as you're authentic and you're just following whatever you feel in that moment, you kind of make the right decision for that moment, rather than trying to second guess like a few steps ahead. I think you can't really regret, because you've lived honestly and you've lived authentically. So that's what I would say. Just kind of trust your gut, have a bit more confidence, try things out, and then trust in the direction that you're going in. Sounds very philosophical, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. If only you could go back and say that, because I think it'd be very inspirational. And it does seem like when reflecting, it's important to realize how much you do learn from the things that seem like outright failures at the time, and things that seem like they were going to ruin your life or change everything, but often they're kind of change points that are for the better. So absolutely. It's good to know that things work out in the end.
Yeah, it's like seasoning, isn't it? It's like a little bit of extra salt and pepper here and there.
Absolutely. Well, so yeah, it's been so fantastic to chat to you and learn more about all the things that you do. I definitely recommend that everyone listening at home go and subscribe to all your channels and read your books and channel their inner divas and be confident and do like Shola and go and flourish. Thank you, Shola, for coming on.
Thank you. It's been a real treat. Thank you so much, Meg.